Unless you're long Nvidia, if you're a South African, you're poorer. But Friday is Friday, and we'll take it. This is The Week That Was. I'm Simon Brown. My co-host is Giulietta Talevi. And with us to whinge away the next 24 minutes, Sasfin Securities, David Shapiro, Vestact's Bright Khumalo. Next start, Nvidia, floor's yours.
I mean, I think this is the man that should be celebrating because he's got that.
He was so anxious on Wednesday night. First, just anxiety about Arsenal, but it was pre the results.
No, it's not that, but he owns Meta, ASML, Nvidia, anything that goes up, Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly. That's his portfolio. Guys, are you copying it? So, what else? What else do you own?
Here's my next
LVMH.
LVMH. No. There's one that popped last week. Big. What's that? The chip maker. ARM. He's got all of them.
Even Uber popped last week. I mean,
well, at least I have Uber.
Okay, but now this is where everyone says market breadth. So, and it's down to one share. Is it not even 7 stocks? Is it one
I've got to tell you something about Nvidia, because I had a query yesterday. Why haven't I got Nvidia? And I said, well, do you remember November 21 when Nvidia was 320? And by November 22, it had fallen to 120.
Yes.
Why have I got Nvidia?
Yes, exactly.
Why am I still holding Nvidia?
That's why brokers record phone calls.
Yeah, and I just laughed. I said, and now from that 120 base to where it is now. But it was only because of generative AI that this popped.
Sure.
So in my language, data centers, because it's generative AI.
Okay, but then the next question.
Is data centers.
This one you can't answer because it's older than you. How's your Nikkei 2225 longs from December 1989? We're at an all-time high. I have a bottle of champagne I'm going to be drinking. I've been waiting my entire career. I didn't buy it back then.
We've waited a long time. I haven't been in Japan. I don't understand Japan. I don't know where to buy Japan.
But Mitsubishi and Toyota and Sony and...
No, but along the way you would have been punished. I don't even know converting that into dollars, into yen. I haven't done the equation of the yen versus the dollar.
Quite a
so while the index might be at this now 39-year or 35-year high, I don't know what it is in dollar terms.
The FT has a great read on Japan and how I suppose pre the bubble bursting, there was this Japanese animal spirits, if you can even imagine such a thing now 34 years later, because they don't exist anymore. They were chastened, and they say it's only to do with the weak yen, and if the yen had to start strengthening, then you might see all these gains.
Yes.
Just that's I've said it before on the show.
Yeah.
Buffett's bought into Japan, but he bought yen as well.
He
borrowed yen and bought. So you're
That's the only way to play that game. Otherwise, it's too complicated for us.
But how are you feeling about the markets, Bright?
I'm happy.
How could you be anything else?
Yes, I mean, we had a terrible 2022. We had an okay 2023, and we're having a good start to 2024. So I'm celebrating.
You're back to stop the clock, eh?
Yes, somehow our first sort of 6 weeks of the year are our best. Well, also making news this week, it's game over at long bloody last for the 2 most disreputable judges in town. Panyaza, the tin pot populist, just loves a red carpet, but maybe not an actual debate on his fantasy budgets. Trump is selling golden sneakers now. Yes, we're not sure what to say about this either. Vakila is selling his soul to the murderous Ruskies, and Cyril has helped sell our youth down the river, given latest unemployment stats. We've got an election date, cadre deployment records, plenty of results to mull over, and of course a budget, and not a good one at that. And here's Enoch on raiding Granny's stash of Krugerrands.
We're strengthening our strategy and sticking to our fiscal goals. A net reduction of 80.6 billion in non-interest expenditure is being implemented over the medium term. At the same time, revenue has been revised up by 45.6 billion over the medium term, relative to the medium-term budget policy statement. And we have taken the decision to introduce a reform of the gold and foreign exchange contingency reserve account, also known as GFACRA.
G-Factor, I don't know who. I mean, technically he's correct. So this is the extra money we have. I went and did a lot of digging into it. So most countries have an automatic process where it just flows to Treasury. We don't. We probably should. But here's a fun fact. 20-odd years ago, Trevor Manuel had to pay 20 billion in, because remember ZARD hit 1360 in December 2001, went down to 575, and they had a loss in there, so he had to pay in 20 billion.
Before even Trevor Manuel came around, James Cross had blown.
James Cross.
Yeah, there you are. He was at the Reserve Bank. I remember he was in charge of. I remember him because he went to the same school as me. That's why he was from Roosevelt, and we were quite proud that he was a governor of the Reserve Bank. But they tried to defend the rand and blew our money. Virtually bankrupted the country. When the ANC took over, they had to slowly rebuild those reserves. That always stays with me. That always worries me, how fast it can go. And once these chaps have got hold of it, we're in trouble. We're really in trouble because...
Where did they get this idea?
It wasn't my idea. It was Claire Bissiker from the Financial Mail, who is an excellent journalist. And yes, we did have Enoch Godongwan on the cover on a little My Little Pony, finding the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. So celebrate then, pop champagne.
The crisis, to your point, David, is that our foreign reserves are fine, but they're at the low end of IMF, and they're fine now, but down the line...
Yeah, the worry is this flatters the budget.
Yes.
If this wasn't there, it would have been a disaster. So maybe we've got a short-term reprieve. We found an uncle that's just kind of given us some money. It's going to last for a little bit. But
Magic pony.
But as Claire Payton said in one of her articles, I think pre the budget, she said Enoch... Enoch cuts while Cyril fiddles. And on one hand, you want the Treasury to say there's no budget for VIP security. There's no budget for deputy ministers. But you can't do that unless you have the buy-in of
the president.
Have you ever seen
the cabinet.
Have you ever driven along Rivonia Road in the morning while Cyril goes off to his office? It's an actual joke. I mean, I don't know how
15
many black
cars in his cavalcade.
Yeah. And I took once, I got my phone out and started to take it, just one after the other. I said, who is this? Who needs this?
I thank my lucky stars I don't have to drive in whatever Rivonia Road there. I walk.
Well, this is on the way to the office.
But either way, do you think anyone is fooled by this budget? As fooled as in thinks,
I think a lot of economists were fooled. A lot of journalists were fooled. I was quite... put off by how I think they just have to write articles, got to get it out by the evening. And there was no real analysis, assessment or understanding of what this really means.
Well, there wasn't any real sign of panic that we're living well beyond our means, or that only 7.1 million of us now earning in income, paying for 28 million of us on grants. Not much in the budget on that.
Unemployment cannot be dealt with except for you deal with the structural constraints. Unemployment cannot be dealt with except for you have a growing economy. So you have to deal with the fundamental infrastructure issues around energy availability. That's the energy constraint. But also you have to deal with the nodes and the pockets of growth hindrances. And I think what we're going to probably hear tomorrow will say nothing for unemployment, unfortunately, but we will hear a lot in terms of the management and the key movement of the expenditure of the state.
My view is that I'm not convinced it's the budget to solve unemployment. It's the 400 parliamentarians who are watching the budget who make policy.
That's one way to look at it, and it's true. Yeah, I mean, it's the people that were voted into parliament that are
policy
looking after the people.
We were talking about the pie.
Pie? There's pie? There's no pie.
Don't you remember? Got to enlarge the pie. We spend the pie, but we've got to make the pie bigger. And then said nothing about making the pie bigger.
Yeah.
The pie's just crumbs.
Waited. Nothing happened.
Which is why now is the time to be making hay as an opposition party. Will it be the EFF and its lavish promises, which would actually necessitate a 100% increase in the tax rate? Change Starts Now's wartime plan to invoke some sort of short-term pain for long-term gain, or the DA union buildings in its sights. Here's Kaz Kavadia on the DA's manifesto, indeed on any party wanting to get into the fray.
The issue here is with the DA, as with any other political party, is certainly from a business point of view, we believe that given where South Africa is, given the depth and breadth of our crises, no government is going to be able to sort this out on its own. And there needs to be, and I can only speak for business, so I can't speak for other constituencies, but certainly from a business point of view, there needs to be a partnership between business and government. And if the DA, in implementing its priorities, is open to that, then that's what we'd like to see in any political party.
I mean, fair enough, but I got to say, most of these manifestos so far have been underwhelming.
Actually, I have to say, I think the manifesto from Change Starts Now was very, very strong. I read it. I mean, it's horrifying in what they suggest.
This is Jardine.
Yeah, they've got they say if you had a 3-year plan, it's going to cost us, you would up the marginal tax rate to 49%, put a wealth tax, a little bit of a tax on pension funds, and you can hear everyone squealing. Yeah. But if it was run by the right people, and their whole manifesto is that you've got to reduce inequality and you've got to start spending the money and the infrastructural constraints, and then you would unleash the economic growth, which then get us into a better situation. So it's a very well thought through manifesto, I must say. But I mean, I don't know if they've got a hope in hell.
I want a manifesto that says, we want to reduce the red tape to operate in South Africa. We want to be pro-business. We want to provide energy, like make Eskom work, for example. We're going to reduce unemployment, especially in the youth, especially those who are qualified and skilled. We want to have all of these artisan types of jobs that we want to open up, etc., etc. That's the type of manifesto I want to see, and I have.
We told you to start a party and run for president, and yet here you are sitting on TV on a Friday night. But just remember that the ANC is basically a criminal mafia with friends in bad places who couldn't for the life of them run a brothel properly, and certainly not take the required minutes. Instead, it has WhatsApp groups galore and friends in high places. Though obviously, it's not how Fix for All sees it.
The DA's real plan is to declare the transformation unlawful and unconstitutional. The ANC prides itself as an organization that discusses all its policies openly and embarks on robust public engagements before it adopts any policy. The key elements of the ANC cadre policy and deployment strategy are summarized in the 1997 policy document as follows, and you can Google it. Recruitment, which emphasis placed on recruiting from the motive forces,
etc.
Openly, but no minutes, Arista. I got no comment.
It hasn't worked. I don't care what the policy document said. I don't care what the minutes said. Whatever they have done has not worked.
Unless you're looking at it through the lens of a mafia organization.
Yeah.
Which case
you
it
think,
worked
we've managed to
perfect.
employ
We
all our
don't
mates,
realise that.
and it's great.
We don't realize whatever the ANC has done over 30 years has not worked. GDP per capita has just been falling. The country is in a mess. We've got no roads, we've got no harbours, we've got
water.
nothing. What else do you need? What evidence do you need? You don't need it written in a spreadsheet or written in a document. It hasn't worked. What kind of brain do you need to understand that? They look nice, I must admit. They all look very pretty and they've got nice backgrounds and the mics work and everything. But they've been ineffective, full stop.
Yeah, well, actually destructive.
Destructive.
After the break, enough of this politics nonsense. Let's talk companies and shoes.
Shoot.